Okay, thanks. Ms. Hilliard, I would disagree with one thing you're after saying there. The Department of Agriculture, when it came to testing cattle, and if there was anything untold anywhere, were able to work on livestock right around the country. So I just wouldn't buy into COVID for anything. Anyhow, international research from experts such as Professor Richard Sams in America suggests that there's two methods of hair testing are actually needed. One method for anabolic steroids and the other method for the beta-2 agonists. Are you using two different systems or one system of hair testing?
Our system covers both of those groups of drugs. Professor Rick Sams would be a long-standing friend and colleague. He's absolutely right. There are different approaches that can be applied to hair. The essential part of it is you mash up hair into a solvent, you extract the solvent which contains the drugs, and then you put that solvent through a machine and it detects drugs. Now, we're fortunate enough to have...
You're doing both, anyhow, just to go to... I need to,
sorry,
because I want to get through it as quick as I can.
You're doing both. Of course.
Right. Are you aware that there's talk that there's an administration of an injection you can give that basically gives adrenaline to horses before races and could be gone out of them at the end of a race? Are you aware of that, or have you done any looking at it, or is that correct?
There's a number of drugs which can be given shortly before racing in the attempt to affect performance. Adrenaline would be one of them. Cocaine could be another. ACTH, which is a hormone which stimulates natural endogenous testosterone and other steroid production. We are not detecting any of that in our sampling, and that's both at a competition, which is the really important bit, and on race day.
Does the IHRB contribute to international studies on all of this?
We do through our personnel at the moment and through our samples, which are held and stored at LGC. I'd like to do more. I'd always like to do more, particularly in research, and I've been very active in the research field. I'd like to continue doing that. Again, Dr. Pearce is on this call, and he may wish to explain further.
Right, and I think in 2017, the IHRB announced the implementation of a race day cobalt threshold in plasma and urine. Did you get involved in that drug testing, or put money towards it, or get involved in putting research together for that along with other countries?
I was involved in the administrations which contributed to the threshold for cobalt. I've co-authored, in fact led papers on cobalt detection, and we continue to contribute through our samples to, for example, threshold setting. So just to give that example, threshold setting for cobalt relies on samples from all over the world to make sure the threshold is fit for purpose all over the world. And yes, samples were contributed. Okay,
can you paint this picture for me? I was just thinking of what you said the last day, that you're going out to, say, some stud farm or where there's horses. Before you go, have you a system that will tell you every one of the animals that's on, or every one of the horses that's on that farm?
That's a very good question. We have a system which will allow us to understand an element of that, but it's not foolproof. At the moment,
I asked a very specific question. Can you, before you go out to a stud farm, say, I have 15 horses, 12 horses, and you have the registration, or that you have every one of them, that you know every one of them, yes or no?
To a stud farm, no.
No. So we have a system brought in place. I asked the question, could horses be moved? So when you're going out to a stud farm, I am aware from information received that both the department and you or the authorised officers have been held up in places. So before they've got into certain places. And what I am saying to you now is you've admitted that there is no system to know, like if I have cattle at the moment and and a veterinary inspector comes to my house, they will tell me every animal I have. If I shift something, it is known I have to put in an application to shift. So my understanding at the moment in this sector is that it's a full paperwork system, and that I could say, well, 5 horses are gone down the road to Johnny whoever, or Mickey whoever, and you cannot say boo to them. Is that correct?
I'd like to go back to the first point. We're not held waiting at yards, and I need to really clarify that. We're not held waiting at the gates. The authorised officer status means that we can hop over the gate, hop over the wall.
Funnily enough, and sorry for talking over you, since last week, we have whistleblowers that have stated very clearly that you have been held at yards, and that also the department have been held by security at yards.
Part of an investigation onto a yard or a visit onto a yard involves reconnaissance. The yard itself needs to be, you need to understand what exits and entrances you have. You need to make sure that those are covered. So if, for example, the story you're talking about of an animal leaving or moving or being spirited away in a lorry down the back drive doesn't happen on visits where we have that reconnaissance done. So you're completely right. We don't have a movement database for horses in the same way as is present for cattle. We would love one, and we're working hard on that with other authorities, with other groups. But right here, right now, our way to deal with that is to do our homework properly. So when we attend a yard, if we have concerns about animals moving, my officers are briefed to literally park behind the horse lorries, make sure they've gone onto the back gates, just as the department do. So we operate in the same way as the department authorised officers.
But surely Deputy Fitzmaurice's questioning is correct. Like in this modern era, there should be a computerised monitoring of all movement of horses.
We would love one.
When you go into a yard, whether it's a pre-training yard or a training yard or wherever you go, that you should know going in that gate there's 6 horses here, 17 horses or 77 horses.
It is what we need.
Yeah. Can I come in on that there?
The
AIM system is up and running at the moment for livestock. There is no reason why ye should have been huffing and puffing over the last number of years about bringing in that system, because the Department of Agriculture, in fairness to them, has one of the best systems, I think, in Europe they have for livestock. And there isn't the numbers of horses compared with cattle and cows and all that. Even sheep they're able to do it down to. And isn't it a ferocious flaw that over the last number of years ye have a system in place that before you go out, it puts you at a huge disadvantage. It's not your fault, I'm not blaming you. But why are we looking at this for so long and never made a move? When will that move be made? Who's going to answer that question? Will it be done before the end of this year, that you have like a card, like for an animal, that you have a card in your hand and that you know how many that I have or Jackie has or whoever, without even going near that person, and they're accountable, because whether they move or whether they don't, if they are, you cannot say then that they're gone down to anyone down the road, because you have to go through the system of filling the online to change ownership of something.
Thank you.
Can you come in on that, Ms. Hillier?
Question for me. The first thing I'd say was I agree with you. I think it's needed. Second question, I think my first week in office, if you like, in 2016, I had a meeting across the road here in Kildare Street to speak to officials about this. It's something that we want. I wouldn't say we've been huffing and puffing. One of the challenges is that horse movement is significant. Horses move a lot more than cattle or sheep in their lives. They could move a dozen times very easily, and tracking that is a challenge. But you're absolutely right. It's not beyond the wit of man, and it is something that we need now. In terms of horses in training, licensed trainers, horse whereabouts on premises, we have a handle on that through HRI databases, HRI systems. Where we have a gap is in the animals which haven't yet entered training. That's where we'd like to focus.
You stated the last day that you follow up any leads in relation to alleged wrongdoing in the industry. All of us, I think every one of us, got briefing or got emails during the week before your time, in fairness, in 2007, where evidence or a whistleblower put in where they went as far as actually stating in the cupboard where the alleged drugs were. And in 2018 and 19, when you would have been there, the whistleblower stated that the same thing happened again. Isn't it surprising that if you were told what cupboard nearly it was in, that something wouldn't have been done? Or what percentage of leads do you go on? You stated the last day that you treat everything serious, but we have a whistleblower. Everyone knows, I think, got this email stating that. What would you say to that?
I'll repeat what I said last week. It's incumbent upon me, it's incumbent upon my team to act on anything that hits our desk. If we were told a cupboard where drugs were kept, if we were given lists of drugs, any information along those lines, it's not even a question of assessing that. That would require immediate action. It's something which I think I said before, sifting out information from intelligence can take time. Sometimes something is blindingly obvious. If somebody gives a name of a horse, name of a train, a name of a drug, that clearly is a lot stronger and a lot more to go on than more anonymous type information. So it depends what we receive. But if it hits my desk, I'll act on it.
If that whistleblower came forward and actually named the person that it was sent to, that you said no matter who gets it in your group, that they have to make sure that it's given to you. If it was a thing that was sent to some other person in your group, would there be serious consequences out of that?
So if I'm understanding your question, you're asking if it ends up on my desk, does it get acted
If it ends up on your desk or somebody
course.
else's desk, are they supposed to send it to you? That's the question I'm asking.
It should end up on my desk as head of anti-doping.
Okay, that's grand. Now, question, and I don't know which he deals with passports, but I have a situation at the moment where one horse has basically 3 registrations and cannot be killed because the system is at the Department of Agriculture when you're registered with say your passport, or is it HSI? That on the AIM system, the 3 registrations number, but it's the one horse. So basically, it's not fit for human consumption because, as been outlined earlier, why would that be? That 3 registrations on the one passport.
Is it a thoroughbred, Deputy Fitzmaurice?
Well, it's Horse Sport Ireland, so whatever you.
No, if it's a non-thoroughbred, then it's a matter for Horse Sport Ireland. I'm not fully clear. There's several passport issuing authorities in relation to non-thoroughbreds because of the different type of breeds that you have. So we can't help you with that question. There's
okay.
One passport issuing authority for thoroughbreds, which is Weatherby's.
Okay, that's fair enough. But back to you in my first question there about this AIM system. You as basically the leader of the pack and the person that's basically responsible for guiding a lot of it, when can you give a commitment that the system will be foolproof in relation to making sure that you know exactly what I have or somebody else has in horses in their yards?
Well, as Dr. Hillier said, there's full traceability in relation to horses in training through our system. This year's foal crop was the first crop to be issued with an e-passport, which will allow greater traceability in relation to those horses. And there's a working group comprising Horse Racing Ireland, the IHRB, Weatherby's who operate the stud book, and the Department of Agriculture, working to complete the circle in relation to the area that Dr. Hillier mentioned earlier, which is horses at stud and breeding farms. And they're working with the view to completing that in the course of the next 12 months. So the 2021 foal crop will be the first crop issued with e-passports, and then it will work its way through the system. The comparison with the cattle is a valid one in some sense, but equally, as Dr. Hillier says, horses generally will move significantly more during their lifetime than cattle.
I don't care, excuse me now, I don't care if a horse moved 12 times. The system under AIMS is so well done that within a matter of seconds, if you're a clear herd, you go onto your laptop and within seconds you can print your movement form. That's gone into, and it's put into the new person's name because you have basically a herd number. And I presume you have an equine number in the horse trade or in the horse business. So it makes no difference if we move an animal once or 44 times. It doesn't matter. We can make sure that the AIM system, because we are actually, and would you agree with this? And would you support everybody here? Would they support this being brought in immediately? That's a question with not alone the new horses born, but with all the older horses, for the simple reason it is given a huge disadvantage, in fairness to Ms. Hillier, when she or any of the authorised officers are going out, because first of all, you don't know what you're looking for, because you don't know how many horses anybody has put in your hand and your heart. Because the paper trail that's there I can say, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, because I've done a bit of research on it, I can say, well, you know, I posted a docket off yesterday because I sold that horse to somebody else, to Jackie Cahill, or I posted it to Paul Q or whoever. Sure, that's not a system at all. Sure, you don't have to produce your horses.
No, we'd be delighted to have that system, Deputy Fitzmaurice, and as I said, that system exists already in relation to horses in training, which is the primary area of focus of the discussions here today. So the traceability gaps, if you want to call it that, are in relation to horses at stud, and that's a process that's been worked through with the bodies I mentioned earlier.
Okay, I want to let somebody else in.